Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to An Hour with LawSikho. Today we have with us Miss Divya Mehta, a Symbiosis Law School graduate and founder of Legal Casa, a legal recruitment consultancy firm at New Delhi. So welcome, Divya. Great to have you here today.
Hi, thanks, Pratiksha. Thank you so much for to you and Ramanuj for inviting me on LawSikho, and I'm really excited to be a part of the discussion.
Awesome. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I basically am a 2008 graduate from Symbiosis Law School, Pune, and thereafter I pursued my career in intellectual property. I worked with Dua Associates initially, and then started moving on to more boutique IP specialized firms. I worked with Lal Lahiri Salotra for a while. Then I moved on to Genpact, where I was working on the trademarks of GE. And I think around that time, it was about 3 years, a little more than 3 years into the profession, which is when I realized that something is not really fulfilling me professionally. So at that point in time, I accidentally got a chance to work with Legally India in the legal recruitment and jobs portal that they were setting up at that point in time. So it was just by chance that I got into it, and that was something which was absolutely an unexplored territory. And that's when I sort of got into legal recruitment and ventured into it. And since then, it's been a very interesting journey. It's been about 7 years now that I'm into this, and it's wonderful, absolutely.
Legal recruitment is relatively a new field that not many lawyers know of, and many don't choose this over the traditional options. So, how did you develop an interest for this area? Was it at law school or much later than that?
Very interesting question, Pratiksha. So I would say that, well, now legal recruitment is definitely something which everybody is aware of, and the number of legal recruiters in the market have increased at least tenfold since what I knew it back then. And yes, I this is not something that I anticipated that I was doing. It just happened by chance. And I initially, as a law student, I was also very confused what to choose between either litigation or being a corporate lawyer. Or then finally, after a couple of internships, I realized that I have some interest in IPR, which is when I started doing that. And then even while doing IPR in 3 years, I realized that okay, this is not something that I'm looking forward to as a profession, because it just something wasn't of my interest. And I'm more of a people's person. I'm more of someone who has interest in the business side of things. So I wanted to be on the other side of the table and explore legal recruitment, which is why I gave this a shot. And absolutely, at that point in time, I had no idea that this would be of so much of interest to me. It's just something of a chance, I would say, that I took, and it just worked out well in my favor.
And luck favors the bold.
Absolutely.
So, what would you tell our viewers about the legal recruitment field? What could you tell us a little bit about that to our viewers?
Right. So legal recruitment is basically a niche industry, an area where if a lawyer or a law who are seeking for a job in either a law firm or in-house corporate legal, they apply through us, through a consultant, and we as we get clients together where we've received mandates from, and it's a proper function. It's somewhat of an HR function, which is, and we are headhunting basically the right candidate for the right position. Something which we make it easier for our clients, which are the law firms and the corporates, so that they don't have to browse through endless number of resumes that they get through. And given a legal background, gives a better understanding towards knowing what the requirement of the client is. So basically, this entire area and the business setup works on a model where we have a success fee over placing a particular candidate with a law firm or a company. That's how the entire business model works.
Okay. So what kind of profile is desired for such a position? Like, for example, if a law student wants to be a legal recruiter one day, so what should they keep in mind?
Well, I would say that if a law student wants to be a legal recruiter, I think they should first, be more open to exploring all avenues of the profession. Once you've decided, okay, I want to be a lawyer and this is what I want to do, or I want to be a legal recruiter, what I would say is that once you're pursuing law as a uh, qualification, I would first suggest that one explores and does all kinds of internships. You can do an internship as a legal recruit with a legal recruiter. There's so many consultancies now. You can probably do one of the internships with them, kind of get a flavor of it and see whether you really like it or not, and even simultaneously probably do internships in other fields of law, so that you make up your mind and get a flavor of all kinds of aspects of the legal industry and different avenues, so that one can make up their mind as to what they want to do. I would suggest one shouldn't just jump into it. You should be open to all fields and all other areas of law, and then decide that, okay, this is what I want to do.
True, I think all law students should, but we have a difficulty in making up our minds. I think that's one of the most things that I remember from my law school as well. So, what are the specific skill sets that is required for such a position?
For a legal recruiter, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. The skill sets are basically you need to have firstly very good communication skills is something which is definitely a prerequisite. Then secondly, I would say you need to be a good listener. You need to listen first to what your client is saying, what the candidate is saying, and the requirements what they have. You need to listen to them, and in order to that you need to analyze how this is going to work ahead. Thirdly, you need to be extremely patient, because there's a huge turnaround time, right from researching, that is mapping for the candidate as we call it, till the time we send in resume to a client for them to review it, which may take really long, for us to follow up with them, is not made. If the candidate takes up the offer or even decides last minute not to take up the offer. So I think patience levels have to be extremely high if you are looking to be a legal recruiter, and you should not get disappointed as much as possible. Sometimes it's very frustrating for us also that, okay, this is something we really expected would happen. Suddenly, last minute, you'll see that either the position goes on hold, or the candidate backs off, or the salary negotiations take place, which don't really pan out the way you expect them to. So I would say these skills are extremely important, and you have to be very, very, I would say, aggressive in the right way, not in the negative way. I mean to say that you have to really hunt down your candidate, which is why we're called headhunters at the end of the day. So you need to really have very strong research skills, and you need to have the ability to track a person, even sort of feel the psyche of a person, human behavior a little bit, instincts, gut feelings. All these need to be taken into consideration while you're sort of working on a mandate, at least. So that if someone has basic skills, I would say being aggressive, being a good listener, being proactive, enthusiastic, and patient is something I would say these are, if someone by nature has these sort of skills, I think it'll be a good bet to sort of get into the profession as the legal recruiter.
You started your own firm, Legal Casa. So, how has that journey been like? If you could share that with us.
Yeah, I accidentally started Legal Casa actually. That was not exactly my plan at that point in time. I'll be very candid with you. It so happened in about 2016. I was already working somewhere, and things didn't sort of pan out the way I expected them to. So I thought, okay, I've I'm going to quit my job, and I was counting by that time that how many jobs have I already switched by now. And after moving from one law firm to the other, then getting into legal recruitment, then another one, then another one, I finally realized after about 6, 7 job changes that, okay, I think I should give this a shot, because I do have a bit of entrepreneurial bent of mind, and I really wanted to give it a shot. So it just so happened that, okay, I did think I would do this one day, but I never knew it would come that quickly in my career at that point in time. So it just sort of happened by chance that in about 2016 March is when I started Legal Casa, and yeah, no regrets.
Wow, that is truly an inspiration, especially for anybody starting off their own firm, because there could be challenges and also the good moments. So, if you could share us a few challenges that you faced through setting up the firm and also some of your best moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any sort of venture is challenging for sure, especially when you're not really prepared for it. So at that point in time, yeah, I remember it was somewhat of a challenge. We set up, like I had my own space, and I initially started off working absolutely independently, and after that, it was much later when I got in people, and I had a researcher and consultant. I have even tied up with some freelancers who are assisting. So about 5, 6 of us who sort of in the team right now, and pretty spread out. Some people are working from home. Some people are working out of Delhi here with me. Some people are in Mumbai, Bangalore. So yeah, I mean, we that's how it sort of grows. And I mean, it's still a very very small player in the legal recruitment market. There's much larger players, and people who've been doing this for much longer than I have. I'm still very very new into this, I would still say, and there's still so much scope for learning, growing, and taking legal recruitment to the next level. So it's yeah, it was absolutely challenging. It still is. There are times when we feel that, okay, the positions are just not closing. Everything is sort of very stagnated. There are very lull phases where the recruitment's very very dry at that point in time. But one has to be patient. Like I said, that is one of the prerequisites of wanting to be a legal recruiter. It sometimes just gets very very frustrating also, but yeah, once it flourishes, then it really does. So um, I think finally, if you're patient about it, it definitely does yield results in some time.
Walk us through a day in your job. What kind of work comes your way? How is it like?
Well, yeah, interesting question. I would say the days start with several phone calls, emails, and I mean you have to be constantly on, LinkedIn, your emails, your calls, meetings. I'm even doing the business development as well as execution, so it's pretty much a 360-degree role. It my day starts off. There are times when there are meetings that I have pretty much all day back to back. There are times when, okay, there are days there are no meetings, but then just calls, phone calls, and emails non-stop. You have to constantly be searching, increasing our database, connecting with new lawyers, connecting with new clients. So sort of building that up, fixing interviews, ensuring that getting feedback from both ends, from the candidates, from the clients, as to how it went. And yeah, of course, the most important is continuing working each day with a very positive stride, that whether or not something materializes or it doesn't, you still need to go on, I guess.
Okay. So let's get to the topic of the day. What skills should a law student develop during law school? Like, what does a recruiter look for in a law student?
Uh, a recruiter, you mean in terms of a law firm? What would they look at if for hiring a yeah?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there are the skills that which a recruiter or a potential employer would look at while hiring a lawyer. Whether if you're a fresher, then I would say that when the employer comes, and you have campus placements at that point in time, so they would definitely look at more of your confidence level, your research work, any publications, your mood courts, your overall scores, right? They would look into your CLAT score also at that point in time. They would look at into your uh, basic academics, yeah, the track records that you've been having, if you've been maintaining and sustaining a particular record, the subject areas that you specialize in and you're probably good at, what you're not, all this is taken into consideration. So they look at basically somebody who's very enthusiastic about the profession, so someone who's really got that zeal and that fire in them to learn and be eager to be open to all avenues, basically be as open as possible. I think a potential employer would be more interested in someone who would say, okay, I want to learn as much as I can, and anything that comes to my plate is something that I'm willing to take, rather than someone who says, okay, no, I just want to do this, I don't want to do anything else. I'm very sure I'm not going to do a corporate, I'm just going to do litigation. So many times we see later that the person moves into another field of law. So all I would say is that the potential employer really would see someone who's enthusiastic, highly motivated, ambitious, and a very keen learner is what the skills that are required.
Are you having uh, am I
No,
going again?
you're not audible, Pratiksha.
Okay. Just a second.
Sure.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Sorry, no.
Okay. Just hold on. We're having a little technical difficulties.
No problem.
Okay. Is it better now, Divya?
Better, it's better.
Okay. So you were mentioning about a track record that one should have to having a good track record, which will help across. So what do you think should? Let's go to the question of a CV. So what do you think should a law student have in a CV to get noticed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a resume has to be absolutely crisp, to the point, and relevant. So, and basics, that's the basics of a good CV. Nobody has time to look at 5 pages of a resume. Maximum 2 pages is what we would suggest a law student or even a lawyer who's looking for a job, an experienced lawyer for that matter. We would not exceed more than 2 pages. Correct? And you need to basically lay down the very basics of what your education qualifications are, your co curricular activities, your personal details, your internship experience very briefly, where all you've interned, what all you've briefly done, and your work experience, if applicable, to a working professional, not for, of course, law students or fresh graduates. That isn't. So the internships need to be laid down very correctly, and yeah, specifically if you're a law student or a fresh law graduate, you need to mention your areas of interest. That is something which a potential recruiter and employer would look into if the areas of interest are specifically mentioned. Because in case you are applying for a particular job, it has to be commensurate with your areas of interest, which are of the subject in your resume. So these points are taken into consideration by an employer. They look at your CV and they say, okay, this person's written, I'm interested in arbitration, but the role is complete for a corporate lawyer. So then they would ask you questions on the basis of that. So you have to be very sure as to what you write in your CV and where you apply for, whether it's commensurate with that, or it's in relation with the job that you're applying for.
Okay. So, in short, what would you say are the three main things that a recruiter looks for in a law student or a CV?
Okay, a recruiter would look at the CV to be impressive, very brief, and in a law student, absolutely they would see that the enthusiasm levels should be very high and they should be very eager to learn. This is what are the basic skills. And absolutely, in your CV, there should be some publications or research papers that you should have worked on, or moot courts. These things sort of give an impression to an employer that one is very keen to pursue the profession and not just someone who's just another lawyer in the making. So the more you put yourself out there in terms of your co-curricular activities and build your CV as much as you can by putting in the publications, research papers, etc. into it, it would really definitely hold a very good impression.
So let's just take a few questions. We've got a few questions from our viewers.
Yeah.
One of the question was, why do firms don't reply? Like, I have a good qualification, but firms don't reply, which is at times so unprofessional and demotivating.
Well, I can totally understand and empathize. I've been there, done that. I feel yes, there are times when the volume of applications is very, very high, and it becomes difficult for a firm to reply to each and every application. But most firms have a database of where they sort of put your resume, and they do contact you in case they feel you're relevant for that sort of a job at that point in time. Because what happens is, even as recruiters, we get lots of calls, emails. Unfortunately, not we cannot get back to each and every one saying that okay, we do entertain every application, but we cannot get back to everyone saying okay, you haven't been shortlisted yet, or we let just follow up calls. Unfortunately, it is difficult for us to do, and even go through sometimes all applications which may be slightly not relevant at that point in time. So I know it gets very frustrating and annoying, but I think firms, when you apply to them, they probably don't apply for the same reason, is because they already receive too many applications in a day, and they are probably shortlisting as to which interviews they need to conduct or which profiles they need to shortlist at that point in time, and they're not able to respond to each and every application. It may sound unprofessional, and I am completely in agreement with it. But unfortunately, one just has to be patient about it. And also, one more thing I would like to put, that there's a flip side to this. A lot of interns or law graduates or experienced professionals, they sometimes they just apply to every firm without even realizing that their application is relevant there or not. So sometimes you may apply for a position which is completely uh, irrelevant in terms of your background. Like, your background may be completely different from what the role entails. you may be just a fresh law graduate and the position is often associated with 3 years or 4 years of experience, then one has to even be cautious as to what you're applying to. So you have to sort of give the benefit of doubt also there, and one has to even do some introspection here that okay, I need to apply for a job and I need to make sure that I fulfill those qualifications, the criteria, what a potential employer is looking at, and not just something that I would blindly apply to XYZ firm with me not having the relevant sort of requirements to fulfill myself. So it goes both ways actually.
Okay, on talking about freshers, uh, so how often do you as a recruiter get law firms who need freshers?
Well, that rarely happens because we're as a recruitment consultant, we don't usually receive mandates for freshers as much as we would like to. Because we get a lot of enthusiastic freshers who really are looking for jobs and they write to us, and it's very disappointing sometimes to just say no to them that we don't have anything for you at the moment. And but I always tell them that okay, I know you're really eager and anxious. I also been through the same, so I kind of give them tips as to where to apply, how to go about it. I make sure I do that, and I would say that as fresher, we unfortunately don't receive too many mandates because most of the freshers are picked up by the campus placements or through their PPOs that they receive at the time of internship. That's something, and the law firms usually like to entertain those applications directly themselves and not go through a consultant. A legal recruitment consultant is mostly required for more experienced lawyers, where the experience comes into consideration, and a mandate is usually given to us when they are not able to sort of find a suitable candidate themselves. Because as a fresher, there are no dearth of sort of candidates that a law firm can get hold of. But for a professional who's got about 3-4 years experience in say corporate M&A, that becomes a bit of a challenge for a law firm to fill, and which is why they contact us at that point in time. Because it's very easy to train any fresher, but it's not so easy to kind of find that skill set already that exists, which is why we don't have too many mandates for freshers.
But what would be your advice for freshers? Like, what should they do to get their dream job or a job after law school?
Yeah, great question. In fact, I was going to address that. I would say that, you know, first of all, intern as much as you can. And as a law student, I remember I did about 9 internships, 9 or 10. And I feel even if you do, say, 5 or 6, make sure that in the course of the 5 years, of course, make sure that you intern somewhere for at least, say, 1 month or 2 months. There are times when I've also made a mistake of probably just interning for about 2 weeks here just to get a certificate. Oh, look, I've got an internship certificate. Well, I think it's better to kind of get, some more experience as an intern as much as you can. Unfortunately, that's the only way to, as a law student, that you can get experience as, doing internships. So just make sure you intern in different sort of firms in different fields of law. If one wants to say do corporate, intern in different places, whether it's a tier 1 firm or a tier 2, don't look at that. Just make sure you're going there for the experience. So apply, go for the experience, and work hard on the job. You will definitely find some thing relevant for you at that point in time. I'm sure initially it's a process of elimination. One would want to work in a corporate firm, then you'll say, okay, no, I want to work only with a tier one firm, but you got to land up getting an internship in a tier two or a tier three. And don't feel disappointed that. Just make sure you learn as much on the job as an intern, get as much knowledge as you can, and then you decide for yourselves, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I clearly remember my first couple of internships were in litigation and arbitration. I completely disliked it. I said, okay, this is not for me. So it was a process of elimination. I knew, okay, this is not at least what I don't want. Now trying to get to what I want. So then, that's how it goes. I've even worked with an NGO, and I remember that time I said, okay, no, this is not my cup of tea. So it's all a process of elimination. Be positive. Um, you can apply in advance, because usually the interns are taken in advance, so make sure you apply all over. The list of firms you can churn out from the internet. I used to refer to Legal 500, now there's Chambers and Partners, couple of so many other. Only now there's LinkedIn, of course, in so many years. When I was in law school, there was no LinkedIn back then. So you can just go directly connect with the HR or the concerned partner of the firm, send in your application, and make sure you write a very crisp uh, and very to the point application. Nobody wants 5 paragraphs in a cover note. No one has time to read that. So just make sure it's very to the point. It addresses the correct person. Basic email etiquettes, these things that need to be followed. And yes, your grammar and punctuation is something which really needs to be also on point, because there are times when somebody would just be not in the best mood, and if they look at that, they wouldn't really care as to who you are, or what how enthusiastic a lawyer you could be. But if something is just not correct and doesn't appeal to the eye per se, so I would say that is something which one needs to really take into consideration as well.
Wow. So you talked about LinkedIn and job hunting from there. So what would be the best practices one could follow by using LinkedIn?
Right. So start with a good LinkedIn profile, get a professional picture clicked if you don't have one, and um, make sure you write a good small bio on your LinkedIn profile. I can show you my LinkedIn profile if you like, and you can just connect with me, Divya Mehta, and you can just check on my LinkedIn profile. I'll be happy to give tips on that. So one would just basically go like, I have LinkedIn on my phone here, so I don't know if you can see that. So that's my picture. That is my bio as to what I've been doing, what I'm doing right now at the moment, and a little bit about my education, my internships, my work experience. Make sure you send requests to the relevant people you want to connect with. On LinkedIn, you can even send requests to people if you don't personally know them. You don't have to personally know someone to necessarily connect with them on LinkedIn, because it's a professional networking platform. So unlike other social media such as Facebook or Instagram, or you need to probably most likely personally know someone in order to send them a request. But LinkedIn pretty much works in our favor as professionals, because people are open to connecting with different professionals from all over across industries. So make sure, suppose if I'm looking for an internship as a corporate lawyer. So I would just go, I would on LinkedIn, I would search out the company or the firm that I'm looking to apply at. If they have a standard sort of procedures to a form that you have to fill in, or a writer email, or sort of go through multiple rounds to get an internship, then make sure that you apply in advance and follow the instructions correctly, and connect with the relevant people and send them your application. Don't be hesitant about connecting with people without really knowing them personally. And secondly, you should also be open to applying at all level of firms. Don't just think that okay, I want to, with an AZB or a Khaitan or a Cam Sam. This is where I want an internship. There are several other firms which are excellent. So don't hesitate that if you get an internship somewhere else in a tier 2 firm or a tier 3 firm, please go for it, I would say.
Thank you so much, Divya. I think that would really help us build our LinkedIn profiles much better so that we get noticed. So, what about you? What do you look for in a profile for a law firm or an in-house counsel positions? Could you share that with us?
Well, yes, absolutely. I also definitely look at a well drafted, application without grammatical errors, addressed to the right person. There are times when I receive emails which kind of marks several other people on the mail and just say to whomsoever it may concern, and or I want to apply for this position in your firm without even knowing what they're applying for. So that is something I usually, of course, don't even consider, needless to say, and I immediately sort of glance through it and I say, okay, no, this is not something which, because if someone does not even have basic email etiquettes or know how to draft a basic small 2-line cover letter, that is something which I don't think would sort of entail to be even selected in the process. So, which is why I feel, firstly, please make sure you draft a decent cover letter, which is very brief. It does not need to be elaborated at all. And secondly, I see that okay, the person, if they've drafted a good resume and where all they worked, do they have work stability or not? If we're talking about experienced lawyers, are they stable in sort of one firm, or they're more of hoppers, right? There are people who just want to hop from one job to another, then another. So that is something which, if I know my client does not want the kind of a person who's very unstable, then that is something which will not be considered. And of course, your basic requirement has to match with the job requirement. Like if you're just looking, people are looking at just a transactional lawyer. That is where my focus will be as a recruiter. That okay, I just need to hire a transactional lawyer or a litigation lawyer, disputes lawyer. It has to be in relation with what the mandate is, as what comes out from the client's end. So, which is what I look for in a candidate before I send out the application. And I would speak with them and even assess their basic communication before taking things forward.
Okay, let's take. Sorry. Again, are you able to hear me, Divya?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. So let's take a few more questions. So how difficult is it for a person working in LPO to get through a law firm? It is by Hardik Sabharwal.
You said a person who's working in a LPO.
To get through to a law firm.
Okay. Well, honestly, I wouldn't say it's very difficult because, like I said, it's a process of elimination. If one feels okay that they've acquired say, a PPO, or they've got a campus placement in an LPO, and they are not very comfortable with the kind of work environment they're in or the kind of work that they're getting, they feel that okay, their skills are sort of lacking there, or they're not being able to make the most use of what they are professionally trained to do, then they can obviously apply at a law firm, and you can start from scratch there. Of course, probably that experience, or you work in an LPO for a short span, whatever you work, may not be considered fully, not always, and you can start from scratch. But that's always an option that you can always switch from an LPO to a law. That's not taken in a bad light at all.
So there's another question that we got earlier today. So can an in-house lawyer move from a law firm and vice versa? So what should they work upon? So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I would say it's very natural a process for a lawyer who's working in a law firm to move in-house. And in my experience, I think most lawyers, after some point in time in their career, want to explore working in-house, as if sort of they feel that okay, we burned the midnight oil enough, and we want some work-life balance, so we would let's move in-house. And vice versa, when you're working in-house also you realize okay, it's not as easy as we thought, and it's not any less than working in a law firm. It's pretty um, uh, it entails you to completely be very, very proactive and work. I mean, fine, sometimes you do get the weekends off, which you may not get in a law firm. But it's not everyone's cup of tea to even be an in-house counsel. There are people who want to just be a lawyer and they've got a taste of doing the groundwork of a lawyer more than being an in-house counsel and working for one particular company and doing their legal work. So you kind of still feel restricted that okay, I'm in a particular sector when you're in-house, and I'm just doing one sort of legal profiling. I mean, and as a lawyer who works, say, for example, in a corporate or in a law firm, they would still get all kinds of work which you would not get as an in-house counsel. So
Okay.
it can be done both ways, I would say.
Okay. So what about applicants who are not from top like who don't have the National Law School brand? What do you say about them? And I think Divya, your lighting is a little off.
1 minute. Is it maybe there's some error there? Is it better?
Uh, it's like you're sitting in the dark.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe there's some lighting issue. Is it fine now? Yeah, Pratiksha, are you there?
I Divya,
Um, yeah,
are
yeah,
you able to hear me?
I'm able to hear you. Is it
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine now.
okay?
Yeah. Okay. The question, like, what about applicant who does not have a national law school tag? What, like, let's say, how would they go about this process?
Okay, well, no, that's not necessary at all. I would say that I'm also not from a national law school, and I have seen several people who are my batchmates who are working with absolutely the top-notch firms, whether they're in India or they're overseas. They're working with some of them in overseas are working with the Magic Circle firms. Some of them are here working with the tier one firms, the big corporate houses. So I think it all depends on your skill as a lawyer, how skillful you are. That is something which completely depends and is the requirement and the need of the hour. What, where you're coming from, of course, in the short run will be taken into consideration. That okay, I'm not from a national law, I'm not going to get as much of a campus placement or a better preference where the tier ones are looking at more national law school students and freshers that pass out of there. Well, not always, I would say. There are equal opportunities, and fine, they could have an initial upper hand, but I feel that if you perform well, whether it's an internship or it's anything on the job that you get, and you can make up for your co-curricular activities, that will definitely be an added advantage.
Okay. So, what would be your remarks like? What would you want to tell our viewers about what recruiters are looking for? before they hire anybody? Like, what would be your advice to all our viewers right now? Because many of them had questions, one about being experienced, being freshers, and one not having the National Law School tag. So I know you've addressed all these questions. If you could just summarize the same.
Yeah, so basically, you if you have a national law tag, then of course, you've sort of made it through initially, and you've got. I mean, needless to say, of course, it's not easy for each and all of us to have the same ability to sort of make it. But having said that, one shouldn't just hold it against ourselves and feel that, okay, we've not made it into a national law school, so we are not capable enough of making it big. That's not something which I would say is necessary at all. And you can probably for the record, you can know that, okay, some of the top lawyers in the country are not from national law universities. So they are doing fairly well, and it's not as if that would make much of a difference at all, because they've acquired a set of skills which I feel are very essential and for any lawyer to have. And it all depends on your hard work, how good you are at your subject at the end of the day, and how eager you are to grow further in your career. So
Okay, yeah. So let's just take a few more questions. What should be the strategy while applying for legal internship for law students?
right. The strategy is pretty much the same as I've reiterated. It's just you have to sort of first of all be open in your mind. You shouldn't be restricted. Okay, I'm just applying to 4 law firms, which are the tier one or the five tier one firms. You should be open to applying to all levels, which I take out a list, uh, apply at all places, do follow up emails. You can even call the offices and the or speak to the HR departments and find out okay, this is what I've applied. I want to know the status of my application. Be polite about it, of course. Don't be overly aggressive about it, which could sort of put someone off. But yes, I think follow-ups are very essential, because there are times when we want to receive so many applications that you don't get a really chance to go through each and every one of them. So I think you should just be very proactive while applying for an internship, and make sure that, okay, I've this is what I'm applying for. This is my area of interest. Don't just be desperate and take up anything which you feel is not of your interest at all. That is also something which I would like to add. And if you are given a chance to intern somewhere for, say, at least 1.5 or 2 months at one one stretch of time, I think one should go for that, because that will give you a better understanding of the subject that you're applying for, the particular area of practice.
Okay. I think we've talked quite a bit about freshers, and our experienced people also have a few questions.
Sure.
So, what should our experienced lawyers go about looking for a job change? Like, if they want to change their jobs, so what should they look for?
Okay, so basically, if an experienced professional wants to say, suppose I'm a M&A lawyer with about 2 years or 3 years or 5 years of experience, then one needs to sort of, in my experience, what I've seen is that people do want to, by that point in time, they're pretty sure of the kind of firm that they want to apply. I mean, if you choose to decide that, okay, I want to apply to a different segment of firm, then make sure that you know the kind of work that they already are doing, the partners that work there, the kind of teams that they have, which partner to specifically apply to, right? Which is commensurate with the kind of work that you're already doing. And secondly, if you take a decision to move from a law firm to in-house, then in that case, be mentally prepared that it's pretty different in terms of working in an in-house and a law firm. So it's a different ball game altogether, and people sometimes feel that it's slightly a more easier and a relaxed life to work in-house, which isn't the case. And in fact, there are times when people, probably get back into a law firm after a while working in-house. So just make sure that you should be 100% confident in your application, and you should know that okay, this is what I'm looking at. There are times when you're just sort of overworked and you feel that okay, this is not the kind of firm I want to work with, let me just jump, move somewhere else. So these are not exactly the right reasons to move. So one should know the right reason. Why are you looking to move, first of all? So if one has answers to that and do some introspection that okay, I'm moving because I've been here for about a couple of years and I've learned whatever I had to, and I feel that okay, this is where my growth gets saturated and this is what I want to do with my career, and I see myself later in life, about 2 years, 3 years from now, is very different from what I am at right now. So you have to be ambitious, have aspirations, and seek a better growth and future for yourself instead of just out of boredom or out of just frustration in your job or monotony that okay, I've been doing this for too long, I don't want to do this. So these, so just make sure that the reasons are correct in your mind.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I wanted to know, do experienced people actually come out looking for headhunters to place them? What is the industry trend on this currently?
Yes, of course. In fact, majority of the headhunters look for experienced professionals because the mandates that come from the clients are mostly requirement of say 2 years onwards till 15 years is what something which I've experienced in the profession is that's where the requirements starts from, usually 2 years onwards. So yeah, I would say that it so varying from that sort of number, you would be expecting to look at find target, find this is what I'm doing now, and I as an experienced professional, you would just say okay, I'm not really, this is not where I'm getting my 100% growth here in this firm. This is when headhunters come to the picture, and even the client comes to us and says okay, we're not able to find a suitable candidate for ourselves. And so we need to see that the value system of the firm that we're recruiting for matches with the value system of the candidate and the ambition and the goals of the candidate. So that's where the role of a headhunter really comes in. When we need to place someone in a particular firm or a company, we need to make sure that they would fit in correctly. So the system of fitting in is something which is determined in our profession as a legal recruiter, that you know that someone would fit in the job or they would not. Because that's where we thoroughly interview a candidate. We understand their psyche, their mindset, what are the reasons they're looking for actually moving, and if it at all matches with our clients' requirements. So this way, what happens is we just don't look at filling up a position temporarily, but also ensuring longevity in terms of their career. And we definitely, it is our endeavor to ensure that the candidate stays for as long as possible, which is best for all three of us, the employer, the employee, and the recruiter. It should serve the purpose for all of us. So I guess that's how the lower the attrition rate, the better the chances of success in this business.
So just one last question for today. So this is from Utkarsh. Does doing extra certificate diploma courses boost chances of getting a job in a law firm or in a company? Also, how do you rate doing the extra courses in comparison to internships and research papers?
Right. Yeah, of course. Extra courses would definitely help give you flavor of the subject. Like I remember I'd also pursued a few diplomas in IPR when I was interested to do IP. It definitely helps. Doing an internship or a research paper or a publication or a course are all very different, but they'll all give you somewhat of an idea of the subject that you're interested in and the avenue of law that you would want to explore. So I feel one should go out there and it do as much as possible, explore as much as possible, because what happens is that until you don't explore, you would never know. So which is why openness is the key, and being a keen learner is something which never goes to waste. Even if you decide, okay, I don't like this, at least you would know that you don't. You would at least reach to that level where you figure out that you know, this is not what I was looking at, or this is what I was looking at. So, you know, that aha moment is what which will come ultimately when you explore and be more open to learning. And doing all these courses are definitely an added advantage.
Thank you so much, Divya. This has been really insightful on like what a recruiter looks for from a law student or a law graduate or even an experienced professional. And your insights have been really helpful on understanding what we could do much better. So, do you have any ending remarks for our students and our viewers?
Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure to be a part of this discussion, and I just feel that I want to tell everyone here that don't be afraid to make mistakes in your career. I have made several, and I feel that one should never stop learning and taking risks and challenges. Sometimes it just comes to us automatically at a particular time when it's meant to be. If you feel that okay, I'm not happy with something, don't be afraid to switch. Even if you're say in 2 or 3 or 4 years into the profession, and you feel okay, this is not what I want to do. There's always scope for switching. There's always scope for trying something new. Like I became a legal recruiter after about 3.5 years of being in the profession as an IP lawyer. So, you know, when people say, "Oh, do you regret that?" I said, "Not at all," because that's where, you know, that's what made me where I am today. So, absolutely no regrets, and be open to all kinds of challenges and avenues. And I wish everyone in the audience a very successful journey and career ahead. And I just hope you, all of you achieve your goals. And it's just been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much once again, Divya, for being here with us at An Hour with LawSikho. And thank you guys for coming out, taking time from your busy schedules to watch this. And thank you guys.